Good evening, family. How are you guys? I hope you're all blessed and doing well. As always, I do not like to take too much of your time. I like to get straight into it. So I don't want to do too much introductions and whatever else that other people do. I just want to get straight into the word for today. The word for today is titled Let Go and Don't Look Back. That's what the word is titled today. Let go and don't look back in this season. I believe that there is a sifting and a shifting that God has deemed fit in this season. And without a doubt, you need to let go of the steering wheel and let God be the one in control. Because if we are stubborn and want to be in control of the steering wheel, we'll end up in a ditch somewhere. We'll end up crashing, and we don't want to crash. So let go of that steering wheel and let God be in control. I've been meditating on the word of the Lord and just really praying, in this season, seeking the Lord. And I feel and believe that many of us are holding on to things that God has shaken off. I don't know if that makes sense to some of you, but I know it will resonate with some other people. We're in a space where God has shaken off certain things out of our lives, but we are holding on to it like hoarders. Like hoarders like to hold on to things. They don't want to let go of them. They're attached to those things, and it's really difficult for them to just say, you know what, I'll let go of this thing. And a lot of people are stuck in that rut whereby they just want to hoard these things that God has shaken off, even though God has regarded some of these situations or people in our lives, as not steadfast and very shakeable people. And basically, He is the one who has done the shaking and letting them go. But now it is up to us to accept that and be obedient and let go. However, you find that many people are wrestling with God. They do not want to let go. They're clinging on to those conditions, to those, state of affairs as they were. They want to carry on in that same, sort of like condition and space and state of affairs. But the reason why God has allowed the removal of these shakeable things is because these things can be shaken. And God sees that, and He realizes that these things can become a liability eventually. So God is doing the shaking and removing these things out of our lives. And it is very important that we heed and let go. Very, very important. It is better, for these things to be shaken off and removed now than for them to be happening at a pivotal point in your journey. I believe that. I very strongly believe that. So if God is shaking things out of your life, be obedient and let go. A couple of weeks ago, I believe it was maybe 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks, I can't remember, 2-3 weeks ago, I shared a word titled Get Ready to be Separated in This Season. And I feel like this is sort of like an extension or continuation of that word. So get ready to be separated in this season. Pardon me. Get ready to be separated. And, this season is a very, very important season, one like never before. And there are things that are in need of shaking in your life, in my life, in everyone's life. Well, I shouldn't say everyone, but some people's lives. And some of you have already started experiencing this shake, and it feels rough. It feels very painful. It feels just heartbreaking, gut-wrenching. But God says it is necessary. He's shaking these things that we have grown accustomed to. He's shaking things that we have become too comfortable with. The things that we are too scared, too fearful to let go of. God is shaking them off. he sees fit to shake them off. I want to use Hebrew chapter 12, verse 26 to 27 as a point of reference to drive home a point that I'm trying to deliver. In the book of Hebrew chapter 12, verse 26 to 27, it reads, "At that time his voice shook the earth, but now he has promised, yet once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heaven." Now the expression "yet once more" indicates the removal of the things that are shaken, things that have been made in order that the things not shaken may remain. I really love this scripture, It is showing us that there are things in our lives that have to be shaken in order for their removal, because that enables the things that are meant to not be shaken to remain. There is the need for the removal of those things which can be shaken to go. It is a necessity. We don't want them to go. It's not a want. It's a necessity in the season that those things are shaken and they need to go, in order that those things which cannot be shaken may remain in your life. When a shaking takes place in our lives, it can be very disastrous. It can be very painful. It's just a horrible time. It's a horrible, horrible season to go through. It's a hard time. You feel it. It is so hard. It is so heartbreaking. It is a very, very trying time. Especially when you see people you have known for decades, people you've known for very long, a very long time, when they leave you. It is one of the most heartbreaking times in life. It is very heartbreaking. Yet we learn to navigate through those horrible times when we allow God to lead us as the head of our lives. And I believe that for many people, they're about to go through a season of shaking and separation. Furthermore, this shaking will not only be experienced by people spiritually, but we are also about to embark on a journey where we shall visibly see and feel the shakings in the earth. The earth is groaning in all the nations all over the world. And unstable months are ahead of us. We will see it. This season going forward is all about being grounded in Yahweh, listening and discerning. We should always be attentive to what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. Not just in this season, we should always, at all times, be attentive to the Spirit of the Lord. However, many have functioned in rebellion, and that has to end now. Hence why I am saying this season, we are in a season where we have to be attentive to the Spirit of the Lord and what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. We have to listen attentively. We have to listen and discern. We have to be very, very intentional. All throughout the scriptures, we are directed to listen to God's voice and obey Him. God is speaking in this season, and we cannot escape Him. He's speaking in this season. We have to be attentive. We have to listen. We cannot escape Him. Today, if you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts as you did in the rebellion. Do not harden your hearts. In Hebrews chapter 12, verse 25, it reads, "Be careful that you do not refuse to listen to the one who is speaking. For if the people of Israel did not escape when they refused to listen to Moses, the earthly messenger, we will certainly not escape if we reject the one who speaks to us from heaven. So do not turn a deaf ear to these gracious words." That's Hebrews 12:25. It says, Be careful that you do not refuse to listen to the one who is speaking. For if the people of Israel did not escape when they refused to listen to Moses, the earthly messenger, we will certainly not escape if we reject the one who speaks to us from heaven. So do not turn a deaf ear to these gracious words. I believe there is a future for you and I, ripe with purpose and divine intention. But we need to be listening. We need to listen with intention. We need to be very, very careful in this season. We need to not be found in rebellion. We need to allow God to direct us in the right path, away from the norm that we have become accustomed to, away from the norm that we have become used to. You have to remember that as God sieves and sifts, things in your life, not everyone will come with you. If you remember in the blog that I posted, I think it was 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I stated that some of you will have to leave your family and friends behind. I'm not just saying this. It is what is happening. It is what needs to happen. It is what needs to happen. You have to be prepared. You have to be prepared for this shift, because it will not be easy letting go of the things or those friends and family members. It is such a difficult thing to let go of your loved ones. It's not an easy thing. And yes, some of you might be thinking, oh, I'll just walk away. It's easy if God says it, but it's not. Even if God says it, it's not always easy to align our will with His will. But it is something that we are going to have to do. It's something that we have to be obedient to. Because God's purpose and intent will outweigh any relations you consider as important in this season. And it doesn't mean that those relationships are bad. Some of them might be bad, but it doesn't mean all of them are bad. What it means is that they don't fit with God's agenda for your life in this season. And God's agenda is far more important. Hence why you will need God-assigned relations. Not everyone can come with you. Your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your children, not everyone can come with you. God's agenda is far more important than those relations. You need God-assigned relations in this season. Hence why God needs you to be surrounded by a strong spiritual fortress. You cannot afford to have holes or breaches in the walls of your city because the enemy is at work. And I think a lot of people are very blind. They're asleep. They're not aware that the enemy is at work. The Bible in the book of Isaiah 59 verse 19 says, "When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard against him and put him to flight." This is one of my favorite scriptures. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard against him and put him to flight. You have to remember that in this season that we're in, the enemy is angry and he is rising. He is angry and he is absolutely rising. However, when we read our Bibles in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 7, we are reminded that Jehovah will cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thee. They shall come out against thee one way and shall flee before thee 7 ways. So yes, they will come one way but flee 7 ways. Because the Lord is fighting this battle. But we have to be attentive. We have to be listening. Our discernment has to be heightened like never before. As the days go by, you will begin to notice that certain people you thought were friends will fall off. They will begin to fall off. Trust me. You will see it happening. It is a necessity. There will be people whom you thought would never leave. They will depart from your life. For some of you, it will be husbands. For some of you, it will be wives. For some of you, it will be your children. For some of you, it will be your cousins, your aunties, your uncles. For some of you, it will be very dear friends, best friends, people that you hold very, very dear to your heart. Those people whom you entrusted, those people whom you absolutely thought would never leave you, they will depart from your life. And trust me, it will hurt to the core. It will hurt. It will absolutely sting. But you have to allow that process to take place. But better yet, do not allow hurt to cause you to take offense or become angered with these departures. Trust me, when someone betrays you, it is so easy and you are justified in being angry. But do not allow hurt to cause you to take offense. Do not become angered when they depart from you. Do not become angered. Do not hold hatred in your heart when they leave. Do not hold hatred in your heart. With this in mind, will you be able to rise up to the standard that God is calling you up to? Because this is what you need to realize. God is allowing these things to happen because He is calling you up. He is saying, come up hither. He's calling you up to a different standard. He's holding you up to a different standard. There is a reason why He's setting you apart. He's tried and tested you and seeing you fit for this calling, for this purpose. Therefore, will you be able to still love and pray for those people who betray you? Will you be able to still pray and, fast or love those people who mistreat you or persecute you? It seems easy, but it's not. But you're going to have to do it. And there's a reason why God is holding you up to a different standard from everyone else. There is a reason for that. This season of separation is like no other, and you will see it. Because God is positioning His faithful ones to be heirs and stewards over what He is releasing. Not everyone will partake of what God is releasing in this season. But He has positioned His faithful ones to be heirs and stewards over what He is releasing in this season. Hence why it is important that you allow God to shake what needs to be shaken. And trust me, you will thank Him for it. Yes, currently it might be very painful. And you might have a few words to say about it. Because sometimes when certain things are happening in our lives, when we do not understand the bigger picture, when our view is limited, when our understanding is very limited, we are short-sighted. We become very short-sighted. We don't see what God is doing in the bigger picture, in the bigger scheme of things. But even if this shaking will be very painful, and even if it causes you to feel weak, do not allow defeat to take you over. Do not allow defeat to take you over. Arise and begin to fortify your walls. This is the time, this is the season, this is the moment. Arise and begin to fortify your walls. Because when you are weak, He is strong. So do not allow fear, do not allow defeat to take you over. The Bible in the book of Isaiah chapter 40:29 tells us that He gives power to the weak and strength to the powerless. So he's giving you strength and power in this season, in this moment of your weakness. This is not the time to fold. This is not the time to allow your emotions to take over. And trust me, I understand. We're only human at the end of the day. We have emotions. And when things don't go the way we thought they would, we're only human. It's natural for us to feel a certain way or a type of way. It's only natural for us to cry. But you can't allow those emotions to take over you, to control you. I am reminded of Samuel as God asked him, "How long will you mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel?" When you have time, I want you to go to the book of 1 Samuel chapter 16 and read this story. You know, Samuel was asked by God, "How long will you mourn for Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel?" This was God telling Samuel to not get caught up in what was. God was telling him, get on with the new program, get on with the new assignment, as he commanded him to fill his horn with oil and be on his way to anoint the new king. And just like Samuel, God is asking you today, how long will you mourn? How long will you be caught up in your emotions? How long will you allow your emotions to take over you and rule over you? How long will you do that? Once again, I implore you to rise up. Don't get caught up in past hurts. Don't get caught up in them. Let go of the scars that you carry that are so deep within. Let them go. Abba Father is our healer. There is nothing that he cannot do. If you allow him to, he will heal those wounds. He will heal those scars. He will mend that broken heart. It is time to leave old battles that have held you captive. It is time to leave them behind, the things that have confined you. It is time to leave them behind and step into God's purpose. There is a reason why God has raised you for a time such as this. There is a reason why God has specifically chosen you. I know this message is resonating with some of you tonight. There is a reason why God has chosen you specifically. The future for you is ripe with purpose and divine intention. God will give you divine intervention in every situation. He will. He will provide a way. For some of you, God has called you as an Esther in this season. He has called you as an Esther for your generation, for your family's sake. And for some of you, God has called you as a Joseph for your family's sake, for this generation. God has set you apart as an Esther. God has set you apart as a Joseph. Unstable and unpredictable times are ahead of us. And you will begin to see them unfolding in the coming months. The reason for the betrayals and the separations that you have gone through will begin to make sense. The reason why God has chosen you as an Esther in this season, the reason why God has chosen you as a Joseph, the reason why you have been separated and set apart in this season will begin to make sense in the coming months. The things that you have questioned, those questions that have been bugging your mind, they will begin to make sense. The answers will begin to be revealed. In the book of Genesis, chapter 42, we are told, I'll read from verse 1. So that's Genesis chapter 42. It reads, When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you just keep looking at each other?" He continued, "I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us so that we may live and not die." Then 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with the others, because he was afraid that harm might come to him. So Israel's sons were among those who went to buy grain. For the famine was in the land of Canaan also. Now Joseph was the governor of the land, the one who sold grain to all its people. So when Joseph's brothers arrived, they bowed down to him with their faces to the ground. As soon as Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them. Now, I'm going to jump further to chapter 45. So that was chapter 42. I've read from verse 1 to verse 7. I'm going to jump on to chapter 45 from verse 4. And it reads, "Then Joseph said to his brothers, 'Come close to me.' When they had done so, he said, 'I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed, and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will not be plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord over his entire household and ruler of all Egypt. Now, hurry back to my father and say to him, this is what your son Joseph says. God has made him lord of all Egypt. Come down to me and don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me, you, your children, your grandchildren, your flocks and herds, and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise, you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. You can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that it really is I who is speaking to you. Tell my father about all the honor accorded to me in Egypt, and about everything you have seen, and bring my father down here quickly." Then he threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and wept. And Benjamin embraced him weeping, and he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. Afterwards, his brother talked with him. When the news reached Pharaoh's palace that Joseph's brother had come, Pharaoh and all his officials were pleased. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Tell your brothers, do this, load your animals and return to the land of Canaan, and bring your father and your families back to me. I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you can enjoy the fat of the land." So you can go back and read these two scriptures, Genesis chapter 42, verse 1 to 7, or you can read the whole passage. And then Genesis chapter 45 from verse 4. Again, you can read the whole passage. I read from verse 4 till verse 18. As you can see in the above scriptures, instead of bitterness, Joseph recognized that God had sent him ahead. He was not bitter. He understood the assignment. If his brothers had not sold him into slavery, they would have died of famine. But God allowed for him to be sold so that he can be a savior. He can be the one to help deliver his family from the famine that was happening in the land. So, yes, it was painful to be separated from his family, but that separation preserved and saved lives by a great deliverance. The separation he went through ensured preparation, that his family would find their Goshen. Therefore, in this season of separation, prepare, prepare, and prepare. Awake from your sleep. Awake from your sleep. There is a reason why God has set you apart. There is a reason why God has specifically chosen you as the Esther for your family's sake. There is a reason why God has chosen you as the Joseph for your family's sake. It might feel like a painful process. It might hurt. That betrayal might be hurting you. But do not allow it to anger you. Do not allow it to hold you captive. Do not allow it to become like a Joseph and recognize the position that God is placing you into. Recognize the position that God is calling you up to. Recognize that. So once again, I encourage you, arise. Arise in this season and let go of what's been holding you bound. Let go of what's been holding you back. Do not allow yourself to become bitter. Do not allow yourself to be bound in chains of past hurts. If God is shaking off certain people and certain situations out of your life, it's for a good reason. It's for a good reason. It's for a good reason. He's shaking those things, that the things that should remain may remain. Because the things that will remain are things that cannot be shaken. And you need things that cannot be shaken to remain in your life. Like I've said before, you need a strong fortress around you. You need God-ordained relationships around you in this season. Because the assignment that He's calling you up to is not for the faint of heart. It's not for everyone. You will need strong intercessors around you. You will need watchmen on the towers watching out for you. You will need them in this season. So as you learn to navigate through these horrible times, as you learn to navigate through these trying times, through this painful season, through this painful times, allow God to lead you. Allow God to lead you to a place of purpose. Allow God to lead you. Do not be shaken. Do not fear. Do not fold. Remember to listen and discern. Remember to be grounded in Yahweh. Remember to stay hidden in the Word. Remember to fortify your walls. If there are breaches within your walls, within your fence, patch them up. Patch them up. Because the enemy is seeking whom he may devour. The enemy is angry and he is rising like never before. So you need to fortify your walls. You need to let go of everything that God is asking you to let go of, and don't look back. Let go and don't look back. So, brothers and sisters, thank you for listening today. I encourage you to stay in the Word. Pray, fast, prepare, prepare, prepare. Because what is coming is not for the faint of heart. You need to be spiritually prepared. You need to fortify your walls. You need to strengthen your walls, your borders. God bless you, and see you next time. Bye bye.